Hi, good afternoon, all. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining. I can see people still coming in, so I'm gonna let um, I'm gonna let people join, and we'll get started in just a minute or two. If you've just joined us, thank you so much for joining. I'm just going to wait another minute to allow some people to join, and then we'll get started. For those of you that have already joined, um, as we move through the session, please feel free to utilize the chat and the Q&A box. I'll try and monitor it regularly throughout the session, but if not, I'll leave enough time at the end to answer any questions. And we'll get started in just a moment. I can just see people are still joining the webinar, so I'll allow the last couple of people to filter in, and then we'll kick off from there. Okay, I think it's about time we get started. Thank you all very much for coming. My name is Amelia. I'm a senior solutions consultant at Conductor. And at Conductor, we believe that experience is everything. And that it is through experience that you can take lessons and most accurately and best apply them to your real working life. So if you're not familiar with Conductor or you've not joined a webinar with us before, we're a crisis simulation platform that allows you to run realistic exercises in a completely simulated space. So the platform allows you to do a wide variety of different training, whether that be cyber, natural disaster, reputation, and your participants should act as they do in real life and respond like they would if it was real world scenario. As I said, we believe that it's through realism that you can apply those lessons best if a crisis does occur in real life. And the simulation that you're going to be experiencing today is based off a scenario that one of our clients actually put together to run internally. And before they were using Conductor to run their exercises, they were using PowerPoint and Excel, which I'm sure some of you are doing or have been doing previously. And they found that they weren't getting the engagement with exercising that they wanted because it wasn't realistic, it wasn't immersive, they couldn't build that sense of pressure, and crucially, they couldn't really capture how participants actually respond in these situations. So before finding us, they knew they needed to make a change. And initially, they moved to real channels. So that's using, real phone calls, WhatsApp, emails. And whilst that had a big impact on the way that participants engage directly with the scenarios, obviously increase the engagement and the immersion, you still don't have the insights as a facilitator that you're looking for because you don't have access to all of those real world channels. And you have the additional work in order to manage all of those different moving parts. So this client who's allowed us to adapt their exercise into a demo wanted to retain all that immersion and that engagement, but make their life as a facilitator much easier and still capture all of those insights. And that is when they found us. So we well, our platform is built to provide the highest level of realism to our participants, whilst allowing exercise control to manage everything easily, effectively, and to capture everything they need when they're doing their exercising. So this is a bit of context to the scenario that we're going to be running today. Um, and there are a few differences between what we'll experience today and what a real exercising conductor would actually look like. Crucially, we're highlighting capabilities we think are relevant to you and interesting to your business today. So we're showcasing a lot of the features and how they benefit you, whereas in a real exercise, you might use slightly different channels or you might build your exercise in a different way. You're the experts on what you need to be exercising for and what those exercises should look like for your organization. We're experts in technology and in storytelling. So there will be some differences in our demonstration as opposed to what you would use if you were using Conductor. And of course, everything in today's scenario is fictional, including the company that you will be working for. Whereas in your exercises, you would be using your real organization. So just a few differences. But in this scenario, it is your first day as a risk and resilience manager at Prismtel, which is a major telecommunications provider in the UK. And as I mentioned, it's a vignette, more of an exercise. So we're giving you a flavor of what the platform can do. But you will be asked to make decisions, to communicate your strategy, to monitor the information space, and to really get involved with the content. So it's a vignette, but we'd love you to reply to things as if they're real and to really get involved. And for today's session, you don't have to collaborate with each other. We know that the majority of our clients are doing team-based exercising where you would be encouraged and required to communicate with your team and to act in your specific roles. But for today's demo, we've not done that. So you can act independently within this scenario. And you'll be taking on the role of the player. So you'll be working as the risk and resilience manager, and I'll be facilitating today's exercise. I will continue to share my screen throughout the session, but I'd love it if you could stay focused on your screen as a player, and I'll draw your attention back to mine at the end to show you how I've been facilitating the exercise and the tools I have available to me as an exercise controller. As I said at the beginning of the session, but maybe before a few of you joined, please feel free to put questions in the chat and in the Q&A box as we go through the exercise. I'll try and monitor it and answer questions as we go through, but I'll leave time at the end anyway. So if anything comes up, please feel free to ask, and if not, we'll cover everything else at the end of the session. So I think it's time that we crack on with the demo itself. So if you could all join me at this link, that would be great, and you'll be able to log in directly. I'll also put this link in the chat. And I'll change my screen in just a moment. I can see a few of you joining already. That's great. And if you have joined, what you are currently looking at is the virtual desktop. So this is how participants interact with Conductor using a URL. And you'll notice you have some channels already available to you. Please feel free to have a look around while I let people log in. I haven't actually started the exercise yet. So what you're currently looking at is historic content. And what this means is it's content that's not part of the exercise progression necessarily, but it immerses you in an environment that feels realistic, and allows you to investigate the environment that you're working in. So feel free to have a look around. And once I start the exercise, you'll see that more channels will open up and content will begin to appear across all of these channels that you see. And if you get a blinking red dot, this means that you have content that you haven't read yet. Now, as I mentioned, the channels have been selected for this exercise specifically. We have some channels that we're not using in today's exercise, some that if you were running an exercise, you might not feel are relevant to you, and that's perfectly fine. So the exercises and the scenarios that you build are all determined by you, the scenario that you're training for, the people that you're training and what you would expect them to be doing. And you define all of that. So don't worry if you would expect a scenario that you're building to look slightly different. That's perfectly fine. Now I can see a lot of you have logged in. That's great. I hope you've had a chance to have a bit of a look around. And what I'm going to do is start delivering some content. So you'll see new content appearing across your different channels, and we'll get started. So as I mentioned, you are the risk and resilience managers of PrismTel. Your responsibilities are to manage the crisis, to monitor social media, to make critical decisions and communicate your strategy with the appropriate stakeholders. So you'll be asked questions throughout the exercise, you'll be encouraged to take decisions and to analyze the content as it comes through. Now, don't worry too much if you don't manage to reply to everything that happens within the environment. As I said at the beginning, we are giving you a flavor of what the platform can do and the capability available to you. But it's always more fun if you get involved. And you'll notice your email channel has opened and you have some welcome emails to contextualize you. So feel free to give them a quick scan. And if you would like, feel free to reply. So all the channels should work exactly as you expect. You can reply, you can draft new emails, you can post content on social media. And in fact, if you haven't noticed already, on your Twitter, in your top right-hand corner, you have the ability to switch your account to the official PrismTel account. So if at any point throughout the exercise, now or later, you would like to post from the official company account, you have luckily been given the privilege. So please feel free to use that as and when you like, or you can stick with your player login as well. You may have noticed we already have some help desk tickets, and Mohammed is asking if you can see them. So if you'd like to get back to Mohammed, that's great. You can click one of the options. And this is an example of a multiple choice question within the platform. So some of the emails will be open replies where you draft your own responses. Some of them will ask you direct questions. Now, if you've had a chance to look around and to read a few emails, you might have noticed that Joe is directing you to BitBlitz and an online forum where hacker groups occasionally post about their activities. Feel free to have a look through that to see if there's anything we should potentially be worried about, or you can get back to him if you would like. Now, you might notice that you have some additional channels, such as websites where you have news organizations that you can look at, including our own website, PrismTel. And you have two channels to aid your understanding of the environment and to help you with your communications. So InfoMap is similar to something like 1 million tweet map or live UA maps where content is displayed geographically. And you can also see sentiment analysis on any new content. And Social Watch, where you can track key terms. So if you press the plus button, you can add any terms you're looking to monitor. It might be PrismTel, it might be something else. And if any content matches that key term, it will aggregate it for you. Um, so you can set up as many panels as you like, depending on what you're looking to monitor. I can see a few of you emailing. Thank you very much. That's great. And you might find you get a reply. And I'll explain a little bit more about that towards the end of our session and how we're delivering all of the content to you. Okay. Now, you may have noticed you have been inundated with email alerts about support desk tickets. And there seems to be something slightly suspicious about them as they all came at the same time and they all have exactly the same content. So you had received a phone call from your chief technology officer, and if you would like to get back to him via email, that would be great with anything that you've noticed or anything that's concerning you. You may have noticed you also have an email from Joe. Our customer service portal has gone down, and the spam messages are obviously concerning. So if you'd like to get back to Joe as well, please feel free. And please feel free to reply to any internal support desk tickets if you would like to. Now, it might be that in your own organization you have a team of people who are responsible for handling support, handling internal and external communications. And in this point, this might be where you start delegating and people taking responsibility for different elements within the exercise. In this scenario, everyone receives exactly the same content, so you can decide what you'd like to reply to. But that's how, in a real exercise, you might start directing content to specific teams or tasking them with different responsibilities. But the tickets keep on coming, so please feel free to get back to any of them if you would like to. And if you haven't already seen, Mohammed is asking if we should declare a crisis given the spam messages and the customer portal being down. If you would like to pick an option to advise Mohammed, please feel free. And I can see quite a few of you emailing and replying to things. Thank you very much. You've got a lot to look at, but hopefully you feel like you're slightly on top of it. Thank you to those of you getting back to tickets. That's great. And if you haven't checked your email in a little while, you might have noticed that Sophie is asking you to develop a holding line um, to send to concerned colleagues. Not all of them are aware of the situation as it's developing. Um, so please feel free to draft that and distribute it as you would like to. You can then use this to reply to any tickets if you would like to. I can see lots of you reaching out to reassure anyone raising tickets. Thank you very much. I can tell you're all very busy. But I can see that Mohammed has taken on your advice from some of you and has decided to declare a crisis. You are now a part of the incident management team, and he has sent you an organizational structure for that if you would like to check your email. And as part of the IMT, you've been given access to WhatsApp, an internal messaging where you can discuss how things are developing on that front. As I said, don't worry if you've not managed to necessarily read everything. There's a lot of support desk tickets. And we know that in a normal exercise, you would not be responsible potentially for everything that is happening. We're trying to show the sense of pressure that you can build for your participants. And I'll show you a little bit more at the end about how I'm doing that. But for the time being, you have some content to read over and respond to if you would like to, such as the new WhatsApp messages. And you're being given an incident update. Now, if you've managed to read all that through, Sophie is asking if you can draft a statement for a company-wide email, and she'd like to review it before it's sent out. So if you would like to draft that and email it to her, please feel free. You can compose emails in the mail channel, and you have a contact list available where her email will be as well. I can see you replying to tickets. Thank you very much. And we've jumped forward in time slightly, so it's now 11 a.m. You're having a bit of a rough first day, but I can tell lots of you are doing your best. I can see lots of emails, lots of support replies, so that's great. But unfortunately, things seem to be getting worse. So if you check WhatsApp, you'll see that our website has now been taken down. And you have a link from Joe directing you there. And it seems a group are taking responsibility for the hack, locked under Gerald's orders, is what our website now says. And you can find that in the Voyager tab, or you can use the link directly from WhatsApp in order to see that. And you might notice that on Twitter, um, the public seem to also have become aware that we're experiencing some difficulties and that our website has been taken down. If you haven't already managed to get a statement back to Sophie for approval, um, please feel free to do that. I can see some of you have already sent her something. And if you would like to utilize your access to the official Prism Tel account, you could post any external statements. I know you've not been tasked to do so, but that may be coming soon, so you could begin to think about that. And in fact, Sophie has just asked you in order to start preparing something for public release. There are lots of you talking to Sophie. That's great. Thank you very much for reaching out to her. And I can see some of you have also posted on Twitter acknowledging the hack to reassure the public. Thank you very much for doing that. And a cyber open source intelligence group have also noticed that we're experiencing a hack and have posted on their Twitter account as well. They have quite a substantial following if you go to their Twitter page, which isn't particularly good news for us. But as some of you are posting on social media, hopefully that calms some fears and reassures them that we are aware that we're experiencing an issue. And in response to the media seeming to become aware that we're experiencing some issues, Sophie is preparing you for the possibility of some journalist inquiries. Um, and we've already actually received our first one from GBN News. If you would like to get back to Ben from GBN News, the technology correspondent, please feel free. If you've developed a holding line, please feel free to send that over. Or if you like, you could task someone else in order to do this. So you have a contact list in your mail. If you would like to forward anything onwards, please feel free. And if you haven't checked out the Voyager tab in a while, you may notice that GBN News has reported um, on the attack on our website and that we've been hacked by Gerald's group, a notorious hacking collective, is what they're calling it. Now we've reached a key point of decision. If you haven't checked WhatsApp, you'll notice that we have some new information to consider. Um, the attackers managed to access our confidential customer data. They are demanding a ransom payment to prevent the release of customer data. And we have 6 hours to make a decision about whether we pay it. So there's some back and forth in the WhatsApp, um, and for you to start considering the different options available. And once you've had to think about that and read through all the detail that's in the WhatsApp, you have an email from Lucy Eastbourne, who is your CEO, and she would like your opinion on whether we pay or don't pay the ransom. And you can make that decision when you're ready. Thank you very much for all your responses. That's great. I'll give you just a moment more to think about your decision. I can see quite a few of you are now posting on Twitter. That's great and doing a good job at reassuring the public. And I can see lots of you replying. That's great. And it seems like the unanimous vote is to not pay the ransom. So thank you all very much for your responses. And we have now moved forward 6 hours in time, which if you remember is when the ransom decision was due, or the ransom money was due. Great. So we have an incident update from Joe, and he sent a few updates in the WhatsApp for you to have a read through. But the good news is the website is now back online and accessible to the public. So if you check the Voyager tab again, you'll see that our website has been fully restored. So that's great news. And in part because of your quick response to the crisis and your decision-making process in regards to the ransom payment. Obviously, there's still a fair bit of media handling to be done. So if you would like to help Sophie with some of that, please feel free. I can see a lot of you have already commented on Twitter, so that's great. But we're on the right track, definitely. And just to add to the good news, we can see that the press are reporting we have come out on top of our cyber attack. So we managed to restore our website. We did not pay the ransom. And we took our responsibility seriously to protect our customer data. So in terms of reputation, obviously there's a bit of a long road, but you've managed to garner some good press, so that's great. And in a real exercise, this might be where you continue with a kind of reputational recovery type exercise, asking your communications team and your business ops teams to think about the long-term strategy and the options. Obviously, in today's session, we won't be able to continue this exercise for much longer, but you can explore these different elements as far and wide as you like. And if you haven't checked in on BitBlitz in a while, you'll notice there's some good news there as well. And the Gerald Hacker Group have had their account suspended as they took responsibility for the attack on PrisonTel and had posted about it on the BitBlitz forums. So they've been taken offline, which is great news. And I can still see some of you getting back to Sophie with some longer term social media content or communication strategy. So that is great. Thank you very much. And despite there being a long road ahead for PrisonTel, this is where we're going to draw the exercise to a close. So thank you very much for playing. You were fantastic. Thank you very much for getting involved and for replying to all your emails. I know that we delivered a lot of content to you, a lot to read and deal with, but hopefully you found it stressful in an exciting way. And it's just to give you a sense of the types of content you can deliver to your participants, the channels you can leverage, and the pacing that you have available to you. Now, if you'd like to draw your attention back to my screen, what I'll do now is I'll show you a little bit about how I've been delivering the exercise and the different ways I've been monitoring what you've all been doing. So there are three primary mechanisms that I have in order to deliver content to our participants. And the main one is that I'm using a master events list. So this is pre-scripted content, predefined content that's set to release over a certain period of time. And this is the bulk of the content that you've been receiving. So this is your emails, your phone calls, your media updates, for instance. And I'm actually using two master events list for today's session. So I had my primary one, which is the majority of the events that we went through today, but I had two master events lists prepared depending on how you voted towards the ransom payment. So I had a positive outcome and a negative outcome, and I decided to run the positive outcome today to reflect all of the kind of proactive messaging you've been doing, the fact that you didn't want to pay the ransom, and so on and so forth. But I had two options available, and I selected the one that I felt was most appropriate for this exercise. And it means that when you're running exercises, you might be running them regularly, but with different teams. They might make different decisions, and you have that content ready to go and to make it feel really responsive for them when they're actually inside the exercise. So that's one of the ways that I've been delivering content. Now, the second way is that I've been using a feature called Pattern of Life. And this again is content that's pre-scripted, but unlike the master events list, it's not structured to deliver at a certain point throughout the session. And I define, as the exercise is running, the intensity at which that content is being released. So for instance, the inciting incident content, this contains support desk tickets, tweets from the public, emails, for instance. I can change on the fly how fast that content is being delivered, and I decide when I want that to start and stop. And it allows me to be really responsive to your actions and to change the intensity depending on how much pressure I think you need, whether I want to stop complaints because you've dealt with them all really well, for instance. And it just allows me to be adaptive. Again, just to make the environment feel really responsive to what they're doing and to give you flexibility as a facilitator. So this is the second way that I've been delivering content. Now, the third way, I've actually not been doing myself. My colleague has been helping with this. You may have noticed that if you reply to any emails or any support desk tickets, you might have gotten a response. And this is my colleague role playing as different stakeholders within the environment. So we call this feature impersonation. And I've got the same feature enabled, and it allows myself and my colleague Anjali to play as different characters and respond live to any emails you send, any queries, any questions, without breaking the exercise immersion. So everything feels realistic, it's all in world, and you can engage directly with your participants on top of the pre-scripted content that you've planned. So this is what Anjali has been doing throughout this exercise, and I've been monitoring all of that as well. It's also how one of the ways I can see how much content you're all delivering, and I could see that Anjali was very busy. Now, of course, these three mechanisms all need to be informed by what you're doing. So in addition to having all of these options, I'm also monitoring what you're all doing throughout the exercise. And I do this using a review tab. So I have access to all of the content sent within the exercise, whether you send a tweet, whether you send a message, an email, anything you do within the platform, I have access to it here. And I also have access to the decisions that you make throughout the exercise. So whether or not you wanted to declare a crisis, whether you wanted to pay the ransom, whether you could see the help desk, all of these questions I get the responses to in real time. And it allows me to make very quick and easy decisions about how I should branch the exercise or how as a team you're feeling towards different problem sets that occur. So this is just one of the ways that I've been monitoring and looking at how the exercise is progressing from your perspective. And I have ways as well to capture any of my observations as the exercise progresses. So as you create more content, I can write observations against any content that you produce within the platform. So when you reply to an email, I can capture an observation against it. Good response from player 12. And you could, in theory, have a whole team of people making observations if you're running large exercises. And what this allows me to do is capture everything live and then export it into a fully formatted after action review or debriefing report. So you walk away from every exercise with a list of the key takeaways, the observations you made as the exercise was ongoing, and a list of all your participants. So you have proof of a validated team. So these are the types of features that I've been using from my side in order to facilitate the exercise and also to gather any observations or thoughts that I'm having as we're moving through the content. And I'm aware that I've now showed you quite a lot of features within the platform, so I hope that's been helpful for you to see what the other side of this looks like. I have a very similar view to you with basically some additional functionality that allows me to deliver and monitor the exercise for you. So what I'd like to do now is just have an opportunity to take any questions that might have come up, or if you'd like me to show anything in the platform or ask anything, please feel free to put something in the chat or in the Q&A box, and I'll be very happy to answer them. So yes, thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed the participation, and I'll await any questions if there are any. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. So I have a question. Could the platform be used for more technical tests? So generally speaking, our platform isn't intended or designed to be used for like cyber forensics or very technical teams who might be responsible for resolving a cyber attack. That being said, we do have some more technical features that I'm not showcasing in this demo. So we can simulate phishing attacks where you can see who's clicking on certain links. The hacking that we do on websites can be more technologically oriented. So we can display DDoS attacks, we can display 404 errors, Cloudflare errors. And we have more technical elements, spoofed URLs, certificate failures that I'm not showing in this demo. So whilst I would say we aren't a cyber range, we do have some more technical features. And if you're interested, I'd be happy, obviously, in a different session, to follow up with more detail about that. So hopefully today's given you a nice flavor. And if you'd like to see something more technically intended, I'd be very happy to run that with you as well. Great. Mark those as answered. If there are any more questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'll keep the call open for a little while longer in case there's anything else. But thank you very much for coming. And hopefully we'll see you again on another webinar further down the line. I'll wait a few more minutes just in case there's anything else. But if not, you can always follow up with us separately. So you can always reach out to us via our website. We have a live chat and we have an email form. So please feel free to get in touch if there's anything else or any other questions that we can help you answer. Okay, it looks like there aren't any more questions. So hopefully that means everything was clear. So for those of you still on the call, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you at another webinar further down the line, or we'll be in touch soon. And thank you. It was great to have you. Thank you very much for your feedback as well. That's great.